Before I introduce the new project to keep track of what's happening in space each week, I wanted to show you guys my This Week in Space journal that I used for the last 2 years to keep track of everything happening in the industry. So I started this journal March 28th of 2022, and I finished it December 31st, 2023. So almost 2 years, but not quite. Um, and Basically, I just called it my This Week in Space journal. It was a plain grid notebook, and I divided every page up into a week spread, and then just kept track of every event that was happening in space that was of interest to me, that I was covering, that was important news-wise. It helped me just figure out what I was going to be covering each week, especially as new events were happening, and also keep track of stuff that I was working on for my site, and then stuff coming up. So as you can see here, I'm pointing out the announcement of the total solar eclipse event for 2024 that was going to happen in Indy. And then there were other industry events that were happening that day, several announcements. And on each spread, I also had a little bit of space to just get creative and add some illustrations or stamping. Basically, yeah, I just used it like a planner, created a spread each week, getting an up close view here. I would use stickers, I would doodle and draw. You see, I had a very rudimentary illustration. Did a lot of stamping and just basically kept track of everything going on. Now, everything in here I did not cover or write about. The majority of it I did, but there was some stuff that was just important to me to remember. And really, like, the way I remember and learn and cover stuff is if I write it down, I'm going to be more likely to remember it and just be able to recall dates and when things happened. As far as like missions that are spread out over several years and even decades sometimes. So here's one of my favorite pages. I kind of started going in color theme as I got into a groove of filling out this journal. There's another page. It looks like there was something happening with Lucy. Yeah, so there's the journal, and now I'm going to show you what I'm working on this year. Hola, y'all, and welcome to week 1 of Project Life Space Edition. So in the scrapbooking community, there's a system of memory keeping called Project Life, and basically you capture daily moments week to week in an album. And I've decided to use that system of memory keeping for my This Week in Space project this year. So every week I'm going to create a spread or two, basically just covering and sharing what's going on in space, what I'm working on, what I'm covering, and yeah, different news events. So I'm sharing the photos that I'm going to be including in this week's spread. And of course, it starts January 1st of 2024. And then I was showing some of the products that I'm going to use. I pulled out basically like a postcard size paper pad called Stargazer from Paper Studio. That's the Hobby Lobby brand. Pretty sure it's still available in stores. I've seen it a couple times over the past year, but if I see it, I will add a link to it in the description below. So I flipped through and I chose a couple of papers that I think will work with this. Purple is my favorite color, so it kind of makes sense that I went purplish in this spread. And given that there's a couple photos with purple in them, it looks like I'm going with purple this week. I don't intend to make this color theme like I had my previous planner, but you never know. Sometimes that's just the way it all works out. It looks cohesive on a page. So I think this week, though, it's definitely going to be purple themed. So here it looks like I'm choosing a title card. The best way to kind of keep myself organized in this project is to have a title card every week, where I could just, add the week and the dates of the week. And it looks like I've decided on a little typewriter card there with a little box that I'm going to fill out. So you saw me removing all the photos that I plan on using from the pocket page and I'll, add them to that once I'm done. But I'm getting right into it, and I am starting off with my first photo. Now, I don't do these in order of how they happen this very first week of the year. This photo here is of an artistic illustration of the airlock that the UAE and NASA announced. So they announced a partnership. UAE is going to be developing and building an airlock for the Artemis program. I believe this was announced on the 7th, so the very last day of the week. There was a press release put out. I wrote something up really quick for it. And yeah, I think I give you a close-up of the proposed airlock. So I'm just including the artistic illustration and adding some border stickers to it from a sticker collection paper pad. I'm sorry, a sticker pad that was from Michael's. It was the Recollections brand. And I included a small tab there, and I wrote UAE airlock. And now I'm gonna add a sticker that says get it done, because they have a long way to go, and we would love to see Gateway built and orbiting. So it looks like I've moved on to the week 1 card. I pulled out this sheet of stickers that a friend gifted me, and it ended up being the most annoying and aggravating sheet of letter stickers I've ever used. The the font is very scripty, so the cut wasn't the best on the sticker. So I struggled with them. I cut all that out so you wouldn't have to watch me. But I've gone back to this sticker book, and I'm pulling out some tiny star stickers. These stickers looked a lot cooler on the sheet than they did on my card once I pulled them off. The cut wasn't really great on them, so they looked a lot larger on the sticker sheet. But once you pull them off, they were basically like little confetti specks. The third photo I'm working on is the ULA rocket, Vulcan rocket. And so this, the launch, its maiden mission, pushed quite a few times over the last couple of years. And it even pushed the week that I'm creating this layout. So that night, it was also the 7th, the very last night of the week. We were up late into the night watching the mission, but earlier in the day we had sat for a weather briefing on the phone, and then basically just waiting for a launch to happen. So I have more about the launch itself and the mission that it launched on next week's spread. So the fourth photo I'm working on is just basically sharing the first launch of the year. So it launched January 2nd. It was a SpaceX Starlink launch. Of course, there's going to be a lot of them. I'm not going to cover every Starlink launch. I just don't. But I'm definitely not going to be covering them in here because of space. But this one was important because it was the first launch. It was also a Vandy launch, so that's not really too normal. And it was the first flight of booster B1082. This was an evening launch. Vandy launches are always very hard for viewing just because of the weather and the fog. So it was actually a great launch viewing wise because we were able to get a nice view that night. So it looks like I've put down a label sticker, a clear label sticker, and added the letters, well, the number first. And looks like I found a little champagne glass sticker to kind of toast and celebrate the first launch of the year. And I'm going to add a little label sticker here that just marks the launch, Starlink 7.9. So if you can't tell, I've increased the speed on these videos because if I left it in real time, it would take 3 times as long. And even here, it kind of seems it's going a little slow. I'm very indecisive. I haven't done Project Life in this way before, so it takes me a little time to, figure out what I want to do, find my groove, and just get everything laid out in a way that looks cohesive. It's actually a lot harder, I think, to do memory keeping this way than just, a regular layout or a journal page. So now I've moved on to the next event of the week. And this was the XRISM launch with NASA, JAXA, and I believe even ESA collaborated on this launch. So the XRISM launch, it stands for X-ray Imaging and Spectroscopy Mission. It was the X-ray Space Telescope that was launched back in, I believe, last September 7th, 2023. And this day, a news release came out. This was the 5th of January, because we'd received the first images that were sent back from the telescope. And basically, it's taking photos of super hot gases that you could only see in X-ray, to help us understand, other areas of the universe. So it looks like I'm flipping through that spacey sticker book that I have in order to find a label that I can use to describe what you're looking at here. And now that I've chosen one, down it goes. I've also added the mission name in those same alpha stickers across the side. And on this sticker, what did I write? I said the first X-ray images from the XRISM Space Telescope were released by JAXA. So I get that on there, and then I move on. Earlier in this video, I don't know if you saw, I was showing the pen I used. I believe that one was given to me by Sierra Nevada Corporation. So yeah, I'm using just a regular ballpoint pen there. I love my industry pens. I have a whole collection of them. So now I've moved on to share a photo of the Field Museum here in Chicago. I created a piece at the beginning of the year sharing the free museum days for the Field Museum, Adler Planetarium, and the Museum of Science and Industry. We also have the CERN Museum out in River Grove. So every year, Chicago museums offer several free days to residents, Illinois residents, and they're very popular days. So for the past 10 years almost, I've put together a piece at the start of each year sharing the dates and a little bit of information about all the science-based exhibits that you can see at each museum. So I found a sticker pack that had a sticker that said Day at the Museum. And then beneath it, I added a label that said 2024 free days. So now I'm working on a photo of, and this is a NASA photo that I'm using here, of the SCALPS science engineering experiment that was launched on the IM-1 mission, Intuitive Machines 1 mission. There was a press briefing on this day to cover the experiment and what was going to be happening. Actually, they shared several experiments, but this is the one that really caught my attention and the photo I decided to share. I wrote a piece on all of the experiments, so I'll include links to that down below so you can learn a little bit more about them. But SCALP stood for Stereo Cameras for Lunar Plume Surface Studies. And it was basically an engineering experiment on the Odysseus lander. It was a suite of 4 cameras that imaged the plume as the lander reached the lunar surface. And it was supposed to take 3D models of the landing site, starting about 30 seconds before landing, I think, and then continuing throughout the mission. Spoiler alert, after touchdown, there were some hardware issues. So SCALPS didn't collect any data during the landing, and I don't believe they're going to be able to get the 3D images that they were planning on. But that's, how it goes sometimes, and you'll hear more about that experiment and what happened during that mission in later weeks. I'm filming this and doing this voiceover a couple weeks after the launch and landing itself. So yeah, basically, I just listened into the briefing that NASA had on this day, took notes, and then wrote the piece during this week. I believe the briefing itself happened at the end of the new year. But this is the piece I was focused on for those 2 days and what I was writing, in addition to all these other news events that were happening. Like I said, I'm going to include links to all the pieces that I've written week to week in the description section down here, so you could check it out if you want to learn more about what I'm discussing here very briefly. I write and cover news on Cosmic Chicago, and it's basically just cosmicchicago.com. So this looks like the last photo I'm going to be doing for this week. It's the Avzon mission. It was launched by SpaceX on January 3rd from Cape Canaveral. And it looks like I just decided to leave the photo as is because it has the name of the mission right there. It's an image of the satellite. It was the first satellite for Sweden. It was a SATCOM. And now I am laying out all the photos in the order that I've decided looks the best and kind of helps me tell the story. And then I will be tucking them into the pocket page so that I can add it to my binder. And so here's a brief look at what week 1 looks like in space. And I'm going to share some photos here of the finished product. And thank you for joining me. I had so much fun doing this. I can't wait to share a whole year's worth of space for you in this way. And if you want to keep track, please subscribe below. Thank you.